My ex-husband's new wife called me a financial abuser in front of everyone at our daughter's school, all because I refused to pay $1,200 for her son's soccer camp. I thought that was the craziest thing anyone had ever said about me. Then I found out where my child support money was actually going, and crazy started to look like the least of my problems. It started on a Tuesday in late August, the kind of Georgia afternoon where the air is so thick you can drink it. I was standing in my kitchen in Sandy Springs, spreading peanut butter on whole wheat bread for my daughter Mia's back-to-school lunch, when my phone buzzed against the tile counter. I almost didn't check it. I was in the middle of comparing jelly coupons. The $1 off one was expiring Sunday, and the stack of unpaid bills by the toaster was already giving me a headache. Freelance design work had been slow all month. 2 clients had pushed their projects to September, and hope doesn't cover the electric bill. But I picked up the phone anyway, and that's where the whole thing unraveled. It wasn't a text. It was an Instagram direct message from Tasha Bennett, David's wife, my ex-husband's new wife, the woman who had moved into the house I'd picked out the paint colors for. The message was 3 paragraphs long, no line break, the kind you write after you've been rehearsing in your head for days. I can't believe I even have to say this. It began. David works so hard for this family, and you make more money than he does, and you refuse to help with the kids' basic needs. Jaden's soccer camp is $200 and Lila's dance tuition is due, and you just say no? That's not my problem. That's financial abuse. These kids are part of this family whether you admit it or not, and you're punishing them because you can't get over David moving on. I never thought you'd be this kind of person. I read it 3 times. I read it slow, like maybe if I went 1 word at a time, the sentence "that's financial abuse" would start to mean something else. It didn't financial abuse. I'd done pro bono design work for a domestic violence nonprofit once. I knew what that term actually meant. It meant hiding bank statements. It meant running up debt in someone else's name. It meant preventing your partner from working. It did not mean a woman saying she wouldn't pay for her ex-husband's wife's son's soccer. But the gap between what something is and what people believe it to be, that gap is wide enough to drive a truck through. And Tasha had already parked hers. I set them down, face up, like it bite. The dish hummed. Outside, a lawnmower started up somewhere street. I tried to remember the last time I'd spoke to her. Twice. A 4th of July cookout at David's house, where she'd been polite enough, and the kids had called. Mia's birthday party last spring, where Tasha had shown up with a store-bought cake and stayed exactly 4. That was it. We were not friends. We were not family. We were 2 women connected by a man who couldn't pick a side in his life, and now she was calling my phone again. This time it was a phone call from Willow, a woman I'd known from Mia's elemental days, someone I hadn't spoken to her. I almost let it go to voicemail, but somebody answer. Clara? Hi, it's Linda. I'm so sorry to bother you. I saw something in the Riverside Academy parent on Facebook, and I wanted to make... My stomach dropped to the kitchen floor. What did you see? Well, Tasha, David's wife, she posted something about a family member refusing to support the children, and people in the comments are saying some things. I didn't name you, but a few people figured it out. I thought you should know. Thanked her and hung up. I stood very still in the kitchen, the peanut butter knife still in my hand. Tasha hadn't just sent an angry DM. I opened Facebook and found the Riverside Parents group, one I'd been added to years ago and had muted. Tasha's post was near the top, posted 40 minutes ago. It didn't name names, have to. Sometimes the people who claim to love children the most are the ones who hurt them the deepest, it read. When a parent refuses to contribute to basic activities because of a personal grudge, that's not independence. That's abuse. My kids deserve better than this. 73 comments. I scrolled through them, my video growing at the edges. I'm so sorry you're going through this. Some people never get over being left. Have you talked to a lawyer? It sounds like financial abuse to me. The kids shouldn't have to adult drama. I closed the app. I turned face down on the counter. I picked up the peanut butter, then put it down again. The front door opened. Mia's back hit the floor with a thud, followed by the sound of sneakers kicking off against it. Mom, I'm home. Can I have a snack? I took a breath, wiped my hands on my jeans. I tried to arrange my face into something normal in the kitchen. Mia stood in the hallway, 12 years old, dark hair and a ponytail, holding a field trip permission slip. She looked up, and I saw something in my that I didn't recognize. The careful neutrality of a kid who'd been told something, what to do with it. Mom? She said slowly, like she was testing the weight of each word. Is it true you won't pay for Jaden? You hate Tasha? I opened my mouth. The kitchen clock ticked. Somewhere outside, a car door slammed. And I realized, standing there in my own hallway, with my own daughter looking at me like I might be the villain, that I had no idea how to answer. Because the truth was bigger than soccer camp. The truth was that I'd been paying for things I shouldn't have been paying for years, just to keep the peace. The truth was that they'd been asking me for extra money, always for Mia, and I'd never actually went. The truth was that I didn't know, but I was about to find out. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed listening to the air conditioner cycle on and off, replaying Mia's question in my head. Is it true you won't pay because you hate Tasha? I'd said no, of course. I'd sat on her bed and done the whole mom thing. Jaden isn't my son. I love you more than anything. There's a difference between being generous and being obligated. Mia had nodded, but I could see the doubt still sitting behind her eyes, the way kids hold things they don't understand. At 7 the next morning, I did something I'd never done before. I opened my banking app and started scrolling. Not the court-ordered child support. That was $420 a month, auto-deducted on the first. I'd never missed a payment. I was looking at the other stuff. The extras. The things David had asked for, and I'd said yes to without thinking. Mia's soccer fees. I'd paid those directly to the club. Those were fine. The dental bill David said he couldn't cover. $300. Transferred to his checking. The birthday party at the bounce house place. Another $300. The time David texted, "Can you spot me $500 for Mia's school trip? I'll pay you back," and he never did. The activity fund I'd set up, $200 a month automatically, because I'd wanted Mia to have everything. I added it up. 1 year, $8,470. I sat on the edge of my bed at 7:30 in the morning, staring at my phone, and where did it actually go? I'd always assumed David spent it on Mia. That was the deal. I sent the money. He took care of things during his weeks, but I'd never asked for receipts. I'd trust him. Or maybe I'd just not wanted to. Renee showed up that evening with a bottle of Pinot Noir and Thai takeout, our default crisis menu since college. She listened to the whole thing without interrupting, swirling wine in her glass and making the face she makes when she's about to say something. "Clara," she said, setting down her glass. "That's not a dissent. That's gaslighting with a hashtag. She calls you an abuser. David tells you you're causing and now you're sitting here wondering if you should write a check to make it stop. Do you hear yourself? I just wanted to. It's not going to be over if that. She's not asking for money. She's testing whether you'll let her set." I swirled my wine. What if I just explore? Write all out. What I pay, what I'm responsible for. Maybe if she sees it in black and white, Clara, but she already sees it in white. She doesn't care. But I wrote the email anyway. I spent 2 hours on it, carefully measured, laying out the child support agreement, the expenses I already cover Mia, the legal distinction between my obligations to my own daughter and Tasha's children from another marriage. I didn't insult her. I didn't raise my voice, even in text. Reasonable. It was fair. I hit send at 11 p.m. What Tasha. Next afternoon, Linda Marlowe texted. It was from the same River Parents group, but this time the post included an image, a screen email, cropped to remove the first 3 paragraphs where I'd explained the child support agreement and my existing expenses. What remained was the written, "I have no legal or moral obligation to support children." Top caption read, "This is what financial. She has the money. She just chooses not to help. My children deserve better than a woman who called her own. 100 cents." I didn't read them all. I didn't need. My phone rang. It was Margaret Chen at Bryson Wellness, my biggest client, 3 years in work. "Clara, I got a strange message from Tasha Bennett. She said some things about you. I just wanted to check was okay." I closed my eyes. They seemed to tilt. "Margaret, I'm so sorry. I'll explain everything. Can I call you back in 10 minutes? I hung up at the kitchen table, the same table where I'd been making peanut butter 2 days ago. The email, the screenshot, the client call, it was spreading, moving outward from the mom to my actual life, and I realized with a cold clarity that being reasonable. My phone buzzed again. Another text. This one I didn't recognize. "I saw poor kids. You should be ashamed." I stared at the screen. The kitchen clock ticked. Outside, a dog barked and someone's car alarm went off and then stopped. And I thought $870. I sent David $8,470 in 1 year, never asked where it went. Maybe Tasha wasn't the only one asking questions of. I didn't cry. That was the strange thing. I sat at the kitchen table with the unknown numbers text glowing on my screen, and I didn't cry. I felt something colder and harder settle into my chest, the way a lake freezes from the bottom up. You don't see it coming, And then one morning the surface is solid. I called Marcus Webb on Tuesday morning. He'd been my divorce attorney, a calm man in his mid-40s who kept a jar of lemon drops on his desk and never raised his voice. I told him everything. The DM, the Facebook posts, the cropped email, the client call, the text from a stranger, the $8,470. She's calling it financial abuse, I said. Can she do that? She can say whatever she wants, Marcus said. Saying it doesn't make it true. You have zero legal obligation to Tasha's children. None. The child support you pay is for Mia, and per the agreement, it's supposed to be used for Mia's expenses. If David's been using it for anything else, that's a separate issue. Can I sue her? For defamation? You could. It would be expensive. It would take months. And it would mean every detail of this gets aired in public. Tasha wants that. She's performing for an audience. If you give her a courtroom, you're giving her the biggest audience she's ever had. I thought about the mom group, the client, the text from a stranger. So what do I do? First, stop paying for anything that isn't quartered. No more voluntary expenses. No more help out. If Mia needs something, you pay for it directly. You buy the uniform, you pay the school, you keep the... Don't give David cash for Mia's expenses anymore. Second, document everything. Screenshot every post, save every text, forward every email. Third, and this is the one. Stop responding to Tasha directly. No more DMs, no more emails, no more explaining yourself. If she has something to say, she can say it. And David can relay it through me. I hung up and opened my banking app. I found the automatic transfer I'd set up for Mia's Act Fund. $200 a month going to David. I didn't turn. The exchange was Thursday evening, in the parking lot of the Riverside Academy, the neutral spot we'd agreed on during. I pulled in at 6 o'clock and saw David's truck already there, but talked with him. She was leaning against the truck's hood, scrolling her phone, while Jaden and Lila sat. Tasha never came to exchanges. Mia unbuckled and reached. Wait in the car bay, said. I'll be right back. Got out. The evening air was thick and warm, the kind of Georgia humidity that makes your shirt stick to your back before you've walked. Tasha looked up from her and smiled. Real smile, the kind you wear when you know. Clara. So good to see you. I was just telling David how unfortunate all this misunderstanding. I stopped a few feet away. David stood by the truck door, shoes. Tasha, I said, was steady. I'm not here to you. Oh, I think you should. Jaden's soccer camp line was Monday. He didn't get to go. He spent all week asking why his stepmom's ex-wife hates him enough to let him miss the biggest opportunity. This rose. Just enough that a woman getting out of a minivan nearby glanced over. Do you know what that does to a kid? Do you? The old reflex. The urge to explain, to soften, to say I don't hate him, happened. Tasha, I said. The child support agreement between Danny covers Mia. It doesn't cover Jaden or Lila, and it never will. Have a problem with that? You can contact my attorney. Her smile froze. Your attorney? Marcus Webb. Have David reach out. I turned to David. I'll pick him up Sunday at 6. Don't be late. I walked back to my car. Didn't look over my shoulder, even when I heard Tasha say something sharp, and response. I got in, put the car in drive. Mia minutes. And she said, you were mean to her. Tightened on the wheel. I wasn't mean, it's clear. Jaden really go to soccer camp. He's really good. Why can't you just pay for it? You have money. I opened my mouth. Close. The exit ramp blurred. This isn't about soccer camp. It is about soccer camp. Jaden didn't get to go because of... Her voice cracked. One at school says you're selfish. Even Lila. And they're right. I pulled into the townhouse, turned off the engine. Mia was crying, big angry tears, and I reached for her, but she our door. Sat alone in the dark car and ticking as it cooled, and listened to my daughter storm up the walk. My phone rang. David answered. What? Clara, what the hell was that? You embarrassed her in front of everyone. In the house crying now. David, couldn't you have just paid the $1,200? Is it really worth all this? You've got the money. I've seen your design business. Make more in a month than... Don't. My voice was low. Don't tell me what I can afford. You don't know what my bills are. You don't know what August was like. And you don't get to call me selfish because I'm your wife's kid's soccer camp. Oh, silence. Then David said, I don't recognize you now. Never did. I hung up. Sat in the car for another 5 until my breathing slowed. Then I went inside. Mia had locked herself in her room. I made a cup of tea and sat at the kitchen table, at the stack of unpaid bills. The orthodontist copay was still there. The electric bill had arrived that morning. I'd just stopped sending David $200 a month, and he still didn't stretch far enough. Buzzed. Subject line, Quest. Mia Bennett. It's from Riverside Academy's school counsel, a woman named Patricia Howe. Dear Ms. Bennett, it read. I'm reaching out because some concerns were raised during a recent parent-teacher conference regarding Mia's home environment and financial support. I'd like to schedule a meeting to discuss how we can best support Mia. Please let me know your availability this week. I read it twice, and I set the phone down, really, like it might shatter. I'd gone to the school, and I thought, standing in my own kitchen at o'clock at night with a cup of tea and a daughter who wouldn't talk. She's not going to stop. She's going to keep going until I have nothing left, unless I stopped her first. Patricia Howe's office smelled like lavender and old carpet. She was a soft-spoken woman in her 50s, with reading glasses on a chain and a desk covered in children's drawings. She offered me water, which I declined, and then she leaned forward with the careful neutrality of someone who'd been trained not to show what she was thinking. Tasha Bennett attended Jaden and Lila's parent-teacher conference last week, Patricia said. During that meeting, she mentioned that Mia's biological mother, you, was not contributing financially to the household, and that this was creating stress for all the children. She also filed a financial hardship application for free and reduced-price lunch for Jaden and Lila. I blinked. She filed for free lunch? She did. On the application, David's income was listed at $48,000, and no child support income was reported. The application was approved. I felt the room tilt. David made closer to $75,000 a year in base salary, plus commissions, and I paid him $420 a month, $5,040 a year, in child support. None of it was on that form. Patricia said, are you all right? I'm fine. I wasn't fine. I was running numbers in my head, and none of them were adding. I left the school and drove straight to Marcus Webb's office. He listened, opened a lemon drop, and she underreported income to get free lunch? That's fine. But it's not your problem to solve. What is your problem? And this is important, is whether David is using your child support money for Mia or for something. How do I subpoena his bank records? We can file a motion for modification of custody and support, and during discovery we get access to his accounts. If he's been diverting your child support to other expenses, that's a violation of the court order, and we can use it. I went home and started digging. I had 2 years of bank statements, Venmo records, PayPal transfers, receipts I'd saved in a folder labeled A. I spread them across the dining room table and starting. The court ordered $420. That was $10,080 over 2 years. Then the extras, the activity fund, the dental bills, the school trips, the can you spot texts. The Christmas money David said was for Mia's presents, but I later learned had been used for a family trip to the lake that included Jada. I added 2 years, $23,000 total, $10,000 court ordered, $13,000 Terry. And then I started matching it against what Mia had actually. The fees. I'd paid those direct club. The dental bills, I'd dentist. The school trips, the school. The things I'd paid directly were fine, but the cash and David, the transfer account, the just send me the money and I'll take care of. I cross-referenced with the things Tasha had posted about over the past months. Jaden's equipment, Lila's dance costumes, the family to Destin, the new iPad for Jaden's birthday, the trampoline in the backyard. I couldn't prove every dollar, but the pattern. At least $15,000 of my money intended for Mia, had been spent on Tasha's children. Marcus. He's been misappropriating court-ordered funds, Marcus said, as always, which is a violation. We can demand repayment. We can file for contempt. But Clara, if we go to court, custody gets relitigated. Mia could be interviewed by a guardian ad litem. She could have to testify. Are you ready for that? I looked at the stack of receipts table. I thought about me crying in the car, about Mia herself in her room, about the way she looked at me now, like she wasn't more. To think about it, said. 2 days later, on the door. I was in the middle of a design project. Mia was at David's house, and the last thing I expected was a woman in a navy blazer standing on my porch with a folder. Clara Bennett? I'm Dana Whitfield with the Department of Family and Children's Services. I'm here regarding a report of child filed against you. My mouth went dry. Child neglect? The report alleges that you are failing to provide adequate financial support for your daughter, creating an unsafe and home environment. I need to inspect the residence and speak with you. I'll also. The The inspection took an hour. Dana opened cabinets, checked the refrigerator, looked in Mia's closet, asked about my income, my work schedule, my support system. She was polite but thorough, the way someone is when they've seen everything, nothing surprises them. When she left, she said she'd need to interview me today. I stood in the middle of my room after Dana left, surrounded by the faint smell of lavender hand sanitizer the investigator had used, and felt thing. I called Renee. She came over with the same peanut and the same Thai food I didn't eat. I sat on the couch shaking and said, I just didn't want to pay for soccer camp. Am I the one being investigated? Renee sat with me. Didn't fix it, just said, because she found the system's weak and she's leaning on it. But it's not going to work. They're going to see what I see, a good mom who got targeted. I wanted to believe her. But that night, lying in bed, stared at the ceiling and thought, what if they don't? What if everyone believes Tasha? What if Mia grows up believing I'm the villain? The DFCS investigation concluded 3 days later. Whitfield called me with the no findings. The home is adequate, Mia is well cared for, substantiated. I almost cried with relief. But then Dana made my blood run cold. Ms. Bennett, I should tell you. I've seen this pattern. Tasha Bennett filed a nearly identical report against her ex-husband, Greg Reyes, years ago in Gwinnett County. Also unsubstantiated, she has a type. I had the phone. He's done this before. And if I were you, I'd find out everything I could about how that played out. Because the one thing I've learned in this job is that people who use this as a weapon don't but one victim. I sat at the kitchen table. The table where I'd made peanut butter sandwiches, where I'd added up the receipts, where I'd read this email, and I thought, she did this to Greg Reyes, accused him of the same thing. And the judge didn't leave her, but from it. She'd gotten better, almost gotten away with it. I opened my laptop. I typed Greg Reyes into the search bar, and I started reading. Greg Reyes' divorce file was public record. Marcus pulled it from Gwinnett County Superior Court in 2 days, and sent me a PDF that night. I read it on my laptop at the kitchen table, a glass of wine untouched beside me, and felt the pieces click into place with a sound like a lock turning. Tasha had married Greg in 2008. They'd had Jaden in 2010 and Lila in 2014. They'd separated in 2019, and the divorce had been final in 2020. The filings were brutal. Tasha had accused Greg of financial abuse, of withholding money, of refusing to pay for the children's needs. She'd requested full custody and child support. Greg had countered that Tasha was manipulative and had been using the children as leverage. The judge hadn't bought Tasha's version. The final order awarded Greg joint legal custody and standard visitation, and ordered Tasha to pay Greg $310 a month in child support because her income, even then, was lower than his. The judge's final words were in the order. The court finds that the allegations of financial abuse are not supported by the evidence. The court further notes that the petitioner has made multiple filings that appear designed to harass and inconvenience the respondent. Tasha had been warned, and then she'd done it again. I found Greg's phone number in the court record, listed as his contact information. I stared at it for a long time before I called. He answered on the third ring, a man's voice, cautious and tight. Greg Reyes, my name is Clara Bennett. I was married to David. Tasha's husband now. A long pause. What? She's been accusing me of financial abuse because I won't pay for Jaden's soccer camp. She's posted about me on Facebook. She's contacted my clients. She even reported me to DFS. I read your divorce file. I wanted to ask if there's anything Greg was quiet for a moment, then sighed. A deep sound, like he'd been carrying something heavy for a long time. Come on, let me buy coffee. There's a Starbucks on Peachtree Industrial. Tomorrow at 10? He was taller than I expected, broad-shouldered, with calloused hands, and a face that looked like it didn't. He worked construction. He'd met Tasha at a bar in Lawrenceville, back when he'd thought she was fun, energetic. She's good beginning, he said, stirring his coffee. Real good. Makes you feel like the only guy in the room. Then slowly, everything becomes your fault. You don't make enough money. You don't help enough. You don't love the kids enough. And you push back, abusive. Did she actually take money from you? She drained our joint account the week she for divorce. Took every dollar. Said I was going to leave her penniless, so she did it first. Then she told the judge I was hiding assets. I had to prove I didn't have any money left, she'd taken it. He shook his head. The worst part? Makes you feel crazy. You start questioning your own memory. Did I actually say that? Did I actually do that? That's the gaslighting part. Real good at that. Told him about the money. The $15,000 I'd traced from my child support to Jaden expenses. Greg nodded, wasn't surprised. She did the same thing to me. The child support I paid? Half of it went to her nails, her boyfriend's weed. The kids wore hand-me-downs while she got her every 2 weeks. He leaned forward. Listen to me. The thing you need to understand about Tasha is that she's not after money. Not really. She's after control. She needs to be the victim. And she needs everyone around to agree that she's the victim. If you don't play the villain, make you play it. The only way to win is to stop playing. How? Stop reacting. Stop explaining. Stop trying to prove you're a good person. She feeds on your energy. Starve her. And he hesitated. Get it all on record. Every text, every post, every lie. Because one day to ask to see it. Left Starbucks with a plan forming. The first since this started. I called Marcus that afternoon. I want to send David a formal letter. Demand repayment the misappropriated child support. 30 days. And I want to modify the agreement. I pay Mia's expenses to no more cash to David. Marcus drafted the letter. It was mail the next day. 15,000 in misappropriated funds. 30 days to repay. Otherwise, a motion for contempt and motion of custody would be filed. I did the hardest thing I'd ever done. I stopped checking the mom group. I stopped reading Tasha's posts. I stopped answering David's unless they were about Mia's schedule. Kept them under 2 minutes. I didn't respond when Tasha texted me. I didn't lie when Tasha tagged me in a comment. I archived, I screenshotted, I saved, and I said nothing. Tasha hated it. I could tell, even without reading posts. The frequency ceased. The tone got sharper. The vague hints became more specific. A certain ex-wife in Sandy Springs. A so-called children like an afterthought. And then, on a Tuesday night, she did what I'd been waiting for. She posted my full name. Clara Bennett is a financial abuser who wants to support her own daughter's family. Share this. Everyone know what kind of person she is. It was up for 3 hours before Facebook took it down for harassment. But I'd already screenshotted it, along with the 100 comments and 89 shares. It was evidence now. David called me that night. For the first time, he sounded angry. He sounded scared. Clara, I got your letter. The one from your lawyer. 15 years. I don't have that kind of money. You should have thought about that before you his child support on Jaden's soccer year. Tasha told me it was fine. She said you were okay with it, that you, the kids, did. My voice was flat. Did I ever tell you that? Did I ever okay with my money go to Tasha's kids? Sons. Then, no. She said a lot of things. Time you figured out which ones are true. I hung up. I felt nothing. Not triumph, not satisfaction. Just the quiet hum started running on its own. The next morning, Greg texted me. His number saved, but I knew who it was. Doesn't know I have this, but you hear it. Attached was an audio file. I put in my earbuds and pressed play. It was Tasha's voice, tinny and sharp. Someone, a friend, maybe. David's so stupid he doesn't even know what's happening. Once I get Clara to pay up, I'm taking the kids and the money and I'm out. David's the house and the bills. He's useless anyway. I sat very still. The audio continued. Tasha laughing. Something about how easy it was to make Davy. About how all... I took earbuds. I looked at my phone. I thought about David. About the letter. About the meeting I'd been planning. I told Marcus. I want to sit down. All 3 of us. Your office. A mediator. And I want to play the recording. Marcus's conference room was small and windowless, with a long table and a whiteboard that still had notes from a previous case. The mediator, a woman named Helen Torres, whom Marcus had worked with before, sat at the head of the table with a legal pad and a calm expression. I sat on one side. David and Tasha sat on the other. Tasha was dressed for the occasion. A cream-colored blouse, gold earrings, her hair blown straight. She looked like a woman who'd come to negotiate in good faith. She didn't look at me. Helen opened with the standard speech. This was a mediation. Everything said here was confidential. The goal was to reach an agreement without going to court. Then she turned to Tasha. Would you like to start? Tasha folded her hands on the table. Her voice was soft, measured, the voice of someone who'd practiced this in the mirror. I just want what's best for the children. All of the children. Jaden, Lila, and Mia. They're a family, whether Clara wants to admit it or not. And when one parent refuses to contribute, the children suffer. I've tried to be reasonable. I've tried to communicate. But Clara has been hostile from the beginning, and she paused, blinked rapidly. I just don't know what else to do. My kids deserve stability. They deserve to not be punished because of adult drama. She looked down at her hands. David reached over and touched her shoulder. I watched this performance and felt nothing. No anger, no urge to interrupt. I'd spent weeks preparing for this, and I knew that Tasha's opening statement was the least important part of the meeting. When Tasha finished, Helen turned. Ms. I opened the folder in front of me. I pulled out a stack of documents, bank statements, transfer records, receipts, screens, and slid them across the table to David. I want you to look. David picked up the first. His brow. What is? That's 2 years of my finances. The court ordered child support, $10,000. The voluntary payments, another $30,000. Total, $23,000. Now look at the second. He set down the first page and picked up the second. His face changed. That's what I said. At least $15,000 of money intended for Mia, spent on Jaden's soccer equipment, Lila's dance costumes, the Destin trip, iPad, the trampoline, Tasha's nails. You used my daughter's money to support another family, David. And you lied. I didn't lie, David said, his voice pensive. Tasha said what? That I was okay with it? That I wanted to help? Did I ever say that to you, David? Did I ever tell you to spend my child support on Jaden and Lila? David closed it. To Tasha. Tasha's tight. The distortion. David used that money for household expenses, which benefit all the children, including these there. The nail salon, Mia? I said. The Destin trip. Mia was on that trip. I have the text from you, David, saying Mia's her mom this week, taking the kids to Destin. And you pay money. David was staring at the documents. Hers were red. I reached into my bag at my phone. I didn't play the recording out loud. Instead, I held headphones. David, I said, I want you to listen to something alone. His head snapped up. What is that? Clara, what do you... David, I said, ignore her. Listen, you want to do. Took the headphones. He looked at Tasha, who with his name sharply, put them on. I pressed play. The room went for 3 minutes. David went through a sequence. Confusion, disbelief. Then something that looked like the ground feet. He took off the headphones, slipped them on the table. He looked at Tasha, quiet. You said you were going to take the money and leave? That I was useless? Tasha's face went white, then red. That's... Greg, he recorded me? That's illegal. That's an invasion of privacy. I never said... You said it, Tasha. I just heard it. I was upset. I was venting. You don't just conversation and... 2 years, David said. 2 years you've been... Clara was the problem. That she was selfish. Didn't care about the kids. And all along... He swallowed. We're planning to leave. Room erupted. Stood up, knocking her chair back. How dare you? How dare you sit there and judge me? You think I wanted this? You think I wanted to be married to a man who can't even stand up to his ex-wife? I did what I had to do. I protected my kids. If Clara had just paid the goddamn soccer camp, none of this would have happened. She was shouting now, the mask gone completely sharp and raw. Lynn, the mediator, tried to interject, but Tasha wasn't listening. She pointed at me. You think you're better than me? You think you're some kind of hero? You're just a lonely divorcee who can't handle that her husband chose someone else. You hate me because David loved me. Tasha. Voice cut through hers. He was still sitting, but he was looking at her, expression I'd never seen on his face. Not anger, not sadness, but the flat someone who'd just woken up. Stop, Tasha. Her chest was heaving. First time since the recording. David, not Tasha. I'm not to file for contempt, I said. I'm not going to court over the $15,000. But the agreement changes, effective immediately. I will no longer pay child support to you. Instead, I will pay all of Mia's expenses directly. Medical, activities, everything. You provide receipts for anything you spend on Mia, and I'll reimburse you. But no more cash, no transfers. Tasha's children, Jaden, are not my responsibility. Never were, never will be. I paused. If you agree to this, we don't court. Mia doesn't have to testify. Nobody's life gets dragged to the legal system. But if you don't agree, if you choose to keep doing this, tomorrow, and I will win. And you'll have to explain he chose his wife's lies over her. David at the documents, looked at the headphones, looked at Tasha, who was standing with her arm, her face set in line. Okay, he said. I agree. Tasha made a sound, half sob, and grabbed her bag. Fine. You two work it out. I'm done. She walked out. The door slammed behind her. David sat alone at the table for a long time. Then he looked at me. I didn't know. I didn't know she was... You knew. Not angrily, being a fact. You knew something right. You just didn't want to look at it, didn't argue. He put his head in his hands. I signed the modified agreement that Marcus had prepared. David signed it. Helen notarized it. It was done. I walked out of the office building into the bright Atlanta afternoon. The air was still warm, the kind of late summer heat that sticks to your skin. Renee had picked Mia up from school and brought her. Mia was sitting on the hood of Renee, swinging her legs, bar. She and jumped down. "Mom, is it over?" I knelt down. I looked at my daughter, 12 years old, dark hair in a ponytail, uncertain eyes she'd had in the weeks ago. "Most of it," I said. "But we need to talk about some things. About Tasha, happened. Are you okay with that?" Mia nodded. Then she said, "Mom, is Tasha be my stepmom?" I closed it. I didn't know the answer to that. Nobody did. 3 months later, the kitchen smelled like burnt toast again. It was the 3rd week of October, and Mia was starting the 2nd quarter of 7th grade. New teachers, new textbooks, a new routine that didn't involve packing for David's house every other Sunday. I stood at the counter spreading peanut butter on whole wheat bread. The orthodontist copay had been paid in September, along with the electric bill and the car insurance. There was still a stack of papers by the toaster, but these weren't bills. They were design contracts, 3 new clients I'd signed in the past month. The money wasn't pouring in, but it was coming in steadily. And for the first time in years, I didn't lie awake at night doing subtraction in my head. I'd kept the coupon wallet. It was in the drawer by the fridge, next to the takeout menus and the battery charger. I still clipped coupons from the Sunday paper. It wasn't about the money anymore. It was about the ritual, the small deliberate act of choosing what I spent and why. The difference was that now, when I used a coupon, I didn't feel poor. I felt intentional. The modified agreement was working. I paid Mia's expenses directly. School fees, medical copays, the volleyball clinic, the new winter coat Mia had needed because she'd grown 2 inches since August. David submitted receipts for anything he spent on Mia during his week, and I reimbursed him within 48 hours. No more cash. No more just send me the money. No more wondering where it went. David and Tasha were still married. Tasha hadn't. I'd known she wouldn't, not without a better option line. But things had changed inside that house. David had opened his own checking account, separate from the joint. He'd asked Tasha to contribute to the household expenses based on her income. He'd started asking questions about the nail salon, about the credit cards, about where the money. Tasha had fought it at first, then retreated into sullen compliance. I heard about all of this from Id, who called now more than he had in. Not to ask for money, but about Mia, about the Id. Sometimes about how strange it felt to finally see his marriage. "I was it," he said, after a particularly frustrating exchange with Tasha about the grocery bill. "I knew something off. I just didn't want to." "You were a coward," I said, not unkindly. "There's a difference." And, yeah, the mom group had quieted down. Some people had apologized. Linda Marlowe had sent a long text saying she was sorry she'd believed Tasha, that she'd been manipulated. I'd replied, "It's okay. I understand how it happened. I didn't forgive everyone." I'd left the group entirely and joined another one, a neighborhood book club that met once a month and talked about novels instead of other people. Renee had come to the first meeting with me. "This is the most boring thing I've ever done. I love it." It was healing. It wasn't linear. Some days it was fine, laughing and texting her friends and arguing. Some days she was quiet, withdrawn, asking questions I didn't have. We'd started seeing a therapist, a woman named Dr. Patel, who specialized in divorce and families. And Mia had opened slowly, the way a flower opens when it's sure. She'd told Dr. Patel that she'd felt like she had to choose sides, that she'd been scared if she didn't agree with Tasha, Tasha would stop. That she'd missed Aiden and Lila, even though she knew it. I'd listened and held my dog and thought, this. Not the money, not the Facebook posts, not the DCS visit. The cost was a 12-year-old girl learning that could lie, and that love was optional, and that sometimes the people who said they cared about you were the ones most. I couldn't undo that, but I could make sure Mia had a land. Greg Reyes had become a lie. After the recording, Tasha had found out he'd given it to me and had threatened to take him back to court for prison. Greg had called me, panicked, and I'd given a number. Marcus had handled it. Case was dismissed. Tasha was ordered to Greg's legal fees, and the judge had added a note to the file about Tasha's pattern of litigation. Greg had taken me out for court and said, "I know I'd say this, but thank you. For the first time in years, I can breathe." We texted occasionally now. Not about Tasha, about the kids. About construction work and design deadlines. About what it was like to co-parent with someone you didn't trust. It was a strange friendship, shared damage, but it was real. The front door opened. His backpack hit the floor. Same thud against the wall. "Mom, home." I wiped my hands on a dish towel and walked out of the kitchen. Mia was standing in the hallway, holding a crumpled permission slip, a field of the Georgia Aquarium, and her face was in August. Certainty was still there, but it was softer now, layered over with like trust. "Mom," she said, "can I ask you anything? Today at lunch, have anything to eat?" She said her mom forgot to pack her lunch and she didn't have money for the area. Can I bring an extra snack for her tomorrow? Just in case." I looked at my daughter. I thought about Tasha, a free lunch application, about the way neglect wore different costumes depending on who was wearing it. I thought about the record, about the meeting, about the $15,000. I thought about all the reasons I could say no, about boundaries, about consequences, about not enabling Tasha's irresponsibility, and then I thought about life, 10 years old. Hungry at school. Not her fault. "Of course, baby," I said. "But can we talk about it later? About why Lila's mom forgot, and about what we can do to help that isn't Jax." Mia nodded. She smiled, a real smile I hadn't seen enough of lately, and ran to her room. I went back to the kitchen. I picked up and saw a text from David. "Tasha wants kids' Christmas schedule. When we meet," I typed back. "Send me the dates in writing. My loyal review." I sat down. I looked at the kitchen. The same kitchen where I'd read that first Instagram DM, where I'd added up the receipts, where I'd sat at the DFCS visit. It looked different now, because anything had changed physically, but because I differently. It was mine. The bills were mine, the coupons were mine, the peanut butter sandwiches were mine. The mistakes were mine too, and the regrets, and the slow, imperfect thing of life that added up. I didn't feel like a hero. I didn't feel victorious. I felt, for the first time in a long time, my life finally added up.